The Chosen Season 4 finale starts with King David returning to Jerusalem on a horse, celebrating a big victory. And the episode ends with Jesus sitting on a donkey without a crown on, getting ready to enter Jerusalem. But his humble nature is emphasized. While some of his followers are expecting him to fight and overthrow the Romans, he's doing the opposite of that. In Season 5, Episode 1, Jesus will enter the holy city, fulfilling a prophecy. In the same season, he will flip over tables in anger and frustration. And again in Season 5, he will be betrayed by Judas in the Garden of Gethsemane. According to Dallas Jenkins, The Chosen Season 5 will cover the Holy Week. So the entire season will focus on 5 days, whereas Season 6 will be centered around a single day, the day of the crucifixion. Dallas already revealed which scenes would be included in the upcoming season as the filming is still underway. For example, in Episode 1, we will see Jesus' triumphal entry into Jerusalem on a donkey, a colt to be specific. With this, Jesus will be fulfilling a messianic prophecy from Zechariah. Behold, your king is coming to you, gentle and mounted on a donkey, even on a colt, the foal of a beast of burden. By specifically using a colt, Jesus is making a major statement about who he is. Dallas says that there's a scene where Jesus is about to enter the city and religious leaders stop him. They say, "Please don't do this. It's gonna cause a lot of division and it's gonna cause the Sanhedrin to act out against you." They're like, "We know what you're doing." By riding in on a donkey, referencing the prophecy, it couldn't be more clear what you're trying to say. But Jesus goes into the city anyway, despite knowing that what he's doing will definitely anger the Sanhedrin even more. Dallas also confirms that a major event from the Bible will be one of the best scenes of Season 5. He says, there's a scene coming up in Season 5, of course that's one of the most famous in the Bible, of Jesus so angry that he's flipping over tables. Dallas references the cleansing of the temple, where in the narrative, Jesus visits the temple in Jerusalem and the courtyard of the temple is filled with livestock, merchants, and the tables of money changers. According to the Gospel of Matthew, and Jesus went into the temple of God, and cast out all them that sold and bought in the temple, and overthrew the tables of the money changers, and the seats of them that sold doves, and said unto them, It is written, My house shall be called the house of prayer, but you have made it a den of thieves. Many scholars believe that this was the major event that triggered the religious leaders to plan to kill Jesus. They mainly assumed that Jesus was reacting to the money changers who had made it a routine to cheat people who came into the city to celebrate the Passover. The temple had also become a place where the religious leaders would collaborate with the most wealthy people to loan money to the poor, which meant that the temple had turned more into a financial institution rather than a religious one. Jesus was not arrested that day, and that's only because the people of Jerusalem agreed with him. But this was the main event that would push the religious leaders to have Jesus crucified only a few days later. In one interview, Dallas also talked about this scene that will happen in the Garden of Gethsemane. He said he's the most excited to work on that scene where Jesus gets betrayed and arrested. Season 5 will include this major scene towards the end. In the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus takes 3 of his closest disciples, Peter, James, and John, to a place called Gethsemane to pray. He asks his disciples to sit in the garden as he prays. He walks a bit farther from them and is in big distress, even sinks to his knees, and Matthew says that he falls with his face on the ground. So Jesus is in great agony, praying throughout the night, but checking on his disciples only to see that they are all sleeping. He keeps waking them up, but they go back to sleep. After waking them up for the 3rd time, Jesus says in anger, Are you still sleeping and resting? Enough! The hour has come. Look, the Son of Man is delivered into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us go. Here comes my betrayer. As soon as Jesus says these, Judas arrives with a crowd armed with swords and betrays Jesus with a kiss, letting the Roman soldiers know that the man he kisses is the one to be arrested. According to John, Peter here defends Jesus by drawing a sword and cutting up the ear of a servant of the high priest, but Jesus heals the man's ear and agrees to go with them without any resistance. It is very likely that what I just recounted from the Gospels will be the last scenes of Season 5. I can even see Jesus walking away with the authorities as the last shot of the finale, preparing the scene for the crucifixion for Season 6. Other big scenes will happen in season 5, such as the Last Supper, which should be an episode of its own. Jesus telling his disciples that one among them would betray him, and the subsequent discussion among the disciples trying to figure out which one of them is the betrayer. There's also a part in the Gospels where Jesus curses the fig tree, an inherently symbolic act about a tree full of leaves but bearing no fruit. Apparently, at the time, fig trees produced leaves at the Passover, and small fruits would appear as well. Even though they would be unripe, they would still be edible. But when Jesus sees a fig tree full of leaves but not a single fruit, he curses the tree, saying, "May no fruit ever come from you again." It's an important metaphor. Jerusalem is filled with thousands of pilgrims who came to celebrate the Passover. The spectacle of worship, all the sacrifices are grand, but they only appear to be alive, when in reality they are barren. The temple ground is filled with people hungry for money. The religious leaders are plotting to kill their king. Although from the outside it looks like everything happens for the right reasons, the reality is much darker and depressing, as Jesus also reveals by cleansing the temple grounds. By cursing the fruitless fig tree, Jesus denounces unfruitful believers, who appear to be believers but have no evidence of a relationship with Christ. This will be a great scene in season 5. What do you think? What is the scene you anticipate the most in season 5? Tell me in the comments below. Also, if you're interested to know about the cast of the show, I have a few videos that can help you out. I'll put them in the description box below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you soon.